I'm Felicia,
And I'm Ian.
and we are the Paranormal Lovers.
Hello, paranormal dudes, dudettes, and dudays. Welcome back to another episode of the Paranormal Lovers.
Hi guys.
Hey guys.
Welcome back to another week. We're up to episode 33.
Whee.
What's the 33 and the third joke?
Sons, not us.
Not us. What?
Hail Satan.
Oh, yeah, that. All right. What did you love about this week, babe?
I listened to this cool, these two old English dudes rap on YouTube.
Sounds like fun.
Forgot their names now, but
Kind of makes me think of when we went to that Dirty Head concert and the band that was on when we finally got up there was Little Strangers.
they're like stupid good, but like scary at the same time because they're like 80 years old and they're like English as F.
That's
And,
fucking amazing.
Yeah,
That's really amazing.
they're up there spitting bars, and I'm like, what am I watching?
That's
But
funny.
if I could use my phone right now, I'd look them up
Right,
and tell you
right.
who they were, but
So we'll have to look for them another day. I do need to actually pull something up on my phone. Thank you for reminding me of that.
they're entertaining. I like them. I thought
Right.
that was cool this week. I was at work going, yo! The redneck kid that I work with is like,
Like what?
he's listening to.
Right. All right.
Hey, partner at work. If you're listening, I don't think
He's
he
like,
listens, but
fucking asshole.
camera crooked. You know what's happening.
Don't know.
It's all crooked. It's my tripod.
Yeah,
This is not the best tripod.
that's all right. It works. They just get it to sit and then leave it alone. You're fine.
With it crooked, I'm gonna leave it crooked.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
pretty,
it's
guys.
not terrible.
Not too noticeable.
Yeah, it's not
Just a little bit.
terrible. All right. Shit, I don't even know if I have anything I love about this week. They got the air conditioner fixed at work.
There you
Hot
go.
damn. That's
That
what
one.
it is.
That one.
I tell you what, working in that kitchen without any air conditioning, and I actually got a day off this week, but that's because I was sick. That's why my voice is a little hinky today. But all right. So speaking of music, this week I'm going to be covering Robert Johnson. Have you ever heard of Robert Johnson?
Mm-mm.
All right. Well, and just for whoever, we do not own the rights to this music, so don't come at me. This is Robert Johnson. Oh, stupid YouTube commercials. Oh, stupid YouTube commercials. I want you to hear this real quick before I do this.
Okay. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is Crossroad by Robert Johnson. Many people say that Robert Johnson is the godfather of rock and roll. I know a lot of people have that name.
Sure.
But he was a man that did things people had never heard before.
Right.
Robert Leroy Johnson was born on May 8th, 1911 in Hazelhurst, Mississippi, and died on August 16th of 1938. He was born to Julia Major Dodds and Noah Johnson. Julia was married to a man named Charles Dodds, and I'm going to go ahead and put a content trigger warning at the beginning of this for like hella racism.
Sure.
And shit that involves that. But Julia was married to a man named Charles Dodd, who was a landowner and a business owner. But this being the Mississippi Delta in the early 1900s, Charles was ran out of town to avoid a lynch mob.
Right.
This left Julia alone and destitute, and she took up with Noah to survive. Charles moved to Memphis, Tennessee, and changed his last name to Spencer. Memphis. He went to go meet Elvis. Wait, Elvis wasn't even born. Never mind. When Robert was 2, his mother brought him to live with Charles, and he lived there until he was 10 or 11, attending the Carnes Avenue Colored School. Ugh. And it was during this time he found his love of the blues. Robert, yeah. Robert moved back in with his mother in 1919 or 1920 after she married sharecropper Will Dusty Willis. It is thought that Dusty was abusive to the young boy. Robert did not want to work in the fields, knowing that sharecropping was just another way for white people to keep black people enslaved to them.
Sure.
And if you don't know, like when enslaved people were quote unquote set free, they came up with this whole sharecropping where, like, oh, you come work on my land, you'll get a part of the profit for it, da 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 da. But in reality, it was just fucking nickels and dimes. They weren't getting near what they deserved to get for the work that they were putting in and the bullshit they had to deal with up to that point. They first lived on a plantation in Crittenden County in Arkansas. I want to say
Arkansas.
Arkansas, which still has a lot of fucking cotton fields, let me tell you.
It does.
Then they moved to Commerce, Mississippi, which is now a ghost town, and lived on the Abby Leatherman plantation. While living on the plantation instead of working the fields, Robert would grab a harmonica and play for the workers out in the fields for nickels and dimes.
Nice.
Scrolling. One classmate of Robert's, Willis Coffey, remembers even as a child, Robert was well known for playing the harmonica and jaw harp. Do you know what a jaw harp is?
Yeah, it's the boing, 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 boing.
It was funny because it made me think there was an episode of Teen Titans Go where they were like playing bluegrass music and Raven was playing that. And Patty was like, "What is that?" And I was like, "I don't know."
Jaw harp.
That was a jaw harp. It's also called a Jew harp, but we don't do that here. Yeah, exactly. Like,
That's not a good name.
No. Once Robert found out the truth about who his father was, he adopted the last name Johnson. He even used it when he married Virginia Travis in 1929. She was 16 and he was 19. He decided to get a job and raise a family with her. Unfortunately, she would die during childbirth while at home with her family. She had traveled there to give birth, and Robert decided to travel there while stopping in a few places along the way to play music. When he arrived at their home, he then found out that his wife had died. To add insult to injury, they blamed him for her death, claiming that it was divine punishment for him playing the devil's music. At the time, much of the South was, and still is, Christian, specifically Southern Baptist.
Yeah.
And many people saw any kind of secular music, but especially the blues, as the devil's music.
Yeah, sure.
Around this time, blues musician Son House moved to Robbinsville, which was relatively in the same area as Commerce. Son remembered Robert as a little boy who could play the harmonica well, but whose guitar skills were terrible. He would show up at different venues that Son was playing at, and during a break in the set, Robert would get on stage and play around with the guitar. And he was so terrible that he would be ran out of the venue. They'd be like, "Son, you need to get that boy off the stage. I don't know what he's doing, but it ain't music."
Right.
Robert then moved to Martinsville, possibly looking to find his father, and had a son named Claude, with Virgie Mae Smith. He tried once or twice to see his son and bring money to his grandparents to help raise him. But on the last visit, they told him he was not welcome there because they didn't want Claude to get wrapped up in the devil's music. Right. This kind of feels like this was like the early 1900s, but it feels like the 1980s when rock and roll was all the rage and the satanic panic.
Yeah, heavy metal, satanic.
Satan. Robert then married Coletta Crafton in May of 1931. They moved to Clarksdale, Mississippi in 1932, but it wouldn't be long before Robert became restless with the domestic life, and decided to hit the road and be a traveling musician. Coletta passed away in 1933. Now, This is where it gets a little weird. Around this time, it would seem like Robert just dropped off the face of the map. Nobody really knew where he was. Nobody knew what he was up to, and there are not a lot of records about his life. So it's hard to pinpoint where he went next.
I wonder if he hopped a train.
He did do that a lot, actually.
Yeah.
He would hop trains and go from town to town playing and whatnot.
Yeah, hobos.
Yeah. What did they call it? They called it some kind of musician. There's a name for it where they like travel from town to town, but
yeah.
And there are actually only 2 known pictures of Robert Johnson.
Huh.
I see it. Around this time, yeah, he dropped off the face of the map. Nobody knew where he went. But most historians agree that this was a time when he met with Isaiah Ike Zimmerman. Ike was well known for his music, and legend has it that he would go out to graveyards at midnight, sit on the grave, and the haints or spirits would come out and show him how to play. Why am I getting goosebumps? Nice. I don't know. Probably because there's an air conditioner blowing at the back of my legs. Historians claim that Ike would take Robert with him to the graveyard to sit on the graves and taught him how to play the guitar. But legend has it that Robert went to a crossroad one night at midnight and met with the devil.
Nice.
He gave the devil his guitar to tune, hoping to get talent as well. Before the devil gave him his guitar back, he told him, "Once you take this guitar, your soul is mine."
Whoa.
Right. I watched too much Supernatural to just let that shit roll off my back. I'm like,
Right.
Now, whether you believe the historians or the legends, everyone can agree that when Robert popped up back one night at a juke joint, took the stage, he seemed to have a talent that was not from this world.
Sure.
Many people question how this man, who was terrible with a guitar, could go away for about a year, come back playing bars and riffs no one had ever played before.
He made a deal.
Robert spent the rest of his life traveling from town to town. Like you said, he would hitch rides or he'd hop a train or walk.
Mm-hmm.
First playing on the sidewalks as a way to get his music heard, and then playing in juke joints and dive bars once someone invited him to their venue. He would either meet a woman in the new town and shack up with her for a day or two, or he would have a long-term relationship with different women in different towns and stay with them whenever he was around. I've known men like that. I'm like, right. Yeah, the devil got your ass. Robert's music became the template for what we know today as rock and roll and the blues.
Nice.
Many people said that when he played, he could make one instrument sound like 2 or 3 different instruments playing at the same time. And a lot of people actually chalk that up because the man had stupid long fingers.
Yeah.
Like seriously long fingers, so he could kind of split his digits and play a bar up here and be playing something else down here at the same time.
Right.
But he was very secretive when he practiced. It is said that if he was practicing and someone was watching him, he would either turn his back to them or quit playing altogether.
Huh.
And some people have thought that it was because the devil was playing with him.
Right.
Which, I don't know. Maybe.
Like the devil was playing them other chords.
Mm-hmm. Now, Robert only recorded 29 tracks in his life.
Only 29?
29 tracks.
Huh.
And many of them are filled with lyrics that talk about the devil and or hoodoo. The crossroads were, and probably are, used as a way for enslaved people to have some kind of control over their lives. It wasn't always the devil that they would summon, but there was always a deal made. He also sang about hot foot powder, which is used to keep hellhounds off one's trail. And today one would use hot foot powder to get someone else to leave you alone. And I know I'm talking about Supernatural again. Look, y'all, I love that damn show. I miss it. But if you remember when they went to see Rufus, he had Goofa dust.
Yeah.
And I think that was like Supernatural's version of hot foot powder, because you could like sprinkle it around your door jamb or whatever and it would keep people away.
Right.
or hellhounds.
Sure.
It is also thought that those lyrics represent the struggle of running from lynch mobs and their
Right.
packs of dogs, because he does have a song called Hellhounds on My Trail.
Yeah.
And it was quite common for black people to run from lynch mobs back in the day. I mean, hell,
Yeah.
it's 2023, 100 years later, and we still have fucking sundown towns in this country. So
Sure.
it ain't really gotten better.
No.
Other songs of his include Crossroad Blues, Hellhounds on My Trail, I Believe I'll Dust My Broom, and Me and the Devil Blues.
Nice.
It is
Sure,
thought.
that was really controversial back then.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because Next Bullet is thought, since so many people believe that the devil or the blues was the devil's music, it was everywhere,
Right.
especially in the South, because, enslaved people had been beaten to the point where they got rid of their ancestral practices and became Baptist, and anything that the white Christians saw as bad, the black Christians also saw as bad, because, got to keep the masters happy, I guess.
Right.
And it was a different time back then.
Mm-hmm.
They had to do this to stay safe and so that they wouldn't get lynched.
Sure.
But since so many people believed that the blues was the devil's music, Robert kind of leaned into that stereotype. He's like, well, if this is what y'all are going to think anyways, you believe that my wife died because of me playing the devil's music. I'm not allowed to see my son because you don't want him involved in the devil's music. And if you think I'm that fucking bad, all right, then.
I'm just going to play it.
I'm going to play with it.
Right.
He was a womanizer who drank a lot and would travel into town, play a set, and then just leave.
So
Now,
basically, he did with blues back then what Ghost did with rock and roll today.
huh?
Like Ghost being the theatrical, like Satanism thing.
No,
No.
no, no. He didn't he wasn't doing shows like rituals and stuff like they have.
Well, yeah, not to that extent, but like.
But I think for him, it was more a cultural thing,
Right.
instead of like a showy thing.
I just meant like in the underlying of the music, like
Yeah, but I don't know how much Ghost actually believes in what they say.
I don't know either. Be interesting to talk to him.
And I really I'm not saying that they're like just doing it for shits and giggles, but it's kind of their shtick.
Right.
They go out and they have like this.
It's brilliant.
They've had 52 million papas and cardinals and all kinds of stuff. There's like a theme to it, and there's a story kind of that goes along with their music and
Sure.
each new reincarnation of Tobias's character.
It is very theatrical.
But I think with Robert Johnson, it was more like, this is how my life has been, and this is kind of how it feels like my life is going.
Well, the blues was always play what you feel.
Yeah, it's soul music.
He's feeling what he played.
It's always in his soul, and whether or not he actually did make a deal with the devil,
right?
I'm sure he felt that at some point that his life had been ruined by the devil or whatever.
Sure.
Now, on to his death. There is no autopsy or real record of his death, but people that were with him in the juke joint the night that he got sick say that he had gotten into it with a white man over the fact that he was having an affair with his wife.
Uh-oh.
He was given an open bottle of whiskey, and although people tried to stop him and told him he should never drink from an open bottle of whiskey, because you think about it, back then all the bottles were dipped in like wax.
Yeah.
And so you should get it and you crack that wax open for the first time. Not his. It was already opened. One guy actually slapped the bottle out of his hand and was like, don't fucking drink that. And Robert said, don't you ever knock a $7 bottle of whiskey out of my hand again. And he picked it up and chugged it.
Not good.
No. He became very ill, and within 3 or 4 days, he died.
Dang.
Yeah. And there's no record of it. And there was no autopsy done. So that leaves it kind of open for people to be like, well, maybe hellhounds got to him.
Maybe.
And going back to that TV show again, it's kind of possible, I guess.
Right.
because they would kind of like start coming after you for a couple of days and it made you feel like you were going crazy. So maybe.
Right.
Now, here is an interesting and also really sad fucking fact.
Yeah.
He would be the first to die in what is now known as the 27 Club.
Hmm.
The club includes Janis Joplin, Kurt Cobain, and Jimi Hendrix, just to name a few.
Right.
It is thought that either through their rough lifestyles or perhaps even making their own deals with the devil for talent and fame, these people were all destined to die at the age of 27. And that's how old Robert was when he died.
Hmm.
He died at 27.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, I watched the Netflix show Remastered Devil at the Crossroads.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really good. Graphics are great. Gives me goosebumps. They actually had in that show Eric Clapton, Keith Richards, Bob Dylan, and Bonnie Raitt all talking about how Robert influenced their own musical style.
Nice.
Many of the riffs heard today in rock music are directly taken from Robert's music.
Nice.
So, deal with the devil or not, those of us who enjoy rock and roll and the blues have Robert Johnson to thank for it.
Right.
And that
sure
is the story of Robert Johnson and his possible deal with the devil. Because how the hell you just go away for like a year after you've been practicing the guitar like your whole life, and then you can play notes that nobody's ever heard,
right?
Riffs that nobody's ever put together before. Like he blew Son House out of the water.
He must have had a good teacher.
Well, they say he went and worked with Ike Zimmerman for a year.
Right.
And they would go out and play in old graveyards, and they would actually sit on graveyard stones facing each other.
Wow.
And Ike said, come out here to the graveyards to play, because even if you're terrible, nobody can hear you.
Right.
The dead don't care.
Right.
But, I don't know.
Wonder
Maybe some hate.
If anybody got to see one of them shows.
What do you mean?
Like, I wonder if anybody got to witness both of them playing in a graveyard.
Like if somebody was like walking through and heard some music and they were like, what day?
Whoa, what's going on here?
Two Negroes sitting over here on these gravestones playing music. What are they doing?
I bet whoever it was real surprised.
I bet. Honestly, it would probably freak me out a little bit too if I was walking past a graveyard and there was somebody sitting there playing on a gravestone.
I'd have to go watch.
Probably, right? Right?
I'd have to.
But I don't know.
Would kill me.
I feel like if there had been at least one person at some point in history, they would have been like, yeah, I saw him out there playing with him and he was terrible at first, but then he got better.
Right.
But I just don't know.
Right.
But it is really sad that he went through his whole life and there was so much stigma wrapped around the blues, especially coming from a black man in the South in the early 1900s in Mississippi of all damn places.
It had to be rough, man.
Mississippi Delta was probably the worst place for black people to be.
Yes, sir.
That's why when Charles, his stepdad, left, he moved to Memphis, which can't imagine was that much better. But, and then to have him start the 27 Club.
Right.
That's just sad.
The first one, probably, huh?
The first one. At least the first one that we know of and that is documented.
Sure.
But yeah.
That's wild.
That is wild. And that legend has persisted for a long time that he made a deal with the devil. Which, like I said, is kind of from his own music. That song that I played at the beginning was called Crossroads.
Right.
And was about him going to the crossroads.
So is like the Leonard Skinner song about him?
I don't know.
The devil went down to Georgia?
Probably not.
Because his name was Johnny.
Maybe. No. No, because the devil went down to Georgia. That is Charlie Daniels.
It is Charlie Daniels.
Not Leonard Skinner.
Not Leonard Skinner.
No, I think that one, because that one, like, Johnny beats the devil.
Right.
Tells him, if you ever come on back.
Yeah.
You son of a gun.
Plus it is in Georgia instead of, Memphis.
Yeah, or Mississippi. Yeah. I mean, he may have taken some inspiration from Robert Johnson for that.
Right.
Just in a shitty way.
Right.
Like, oh, you want to make a deal with the devil? Well, we're not going to make a deal with the devil. So hurry, her. Sorry. I have issues with people that want to talk shit about African spiritual practices and stuff. So
Right.
I'm trying not to understand, like trying to talk shit about things they don't understand.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was Robert Johnson. I was really, really excited to do that episode.
It's a good one.
I highly recommend you guys go to Netflix and find that show. It's remastered Devil at the Crossroads. They do a great job of telling his story better than I did, and it's really cool to like watch Keith Richards sit there and talk about how his music influenced his life, and even Eric Clapton.
Yeah.
Like Eric Clapton, he's got like the chillest rock music I've ever heard.
Yeah.
But he's like, nope, I took inspiration from this guy. He was amazing.
I'm gonna have to listen to some of his music now.
You definitely will. There's only 29 records, so it shouldn't take you too long.
Right.
Yeah, that's terrible. But all right, we hope you guys enjoyed this episode. And if you would like, you can follow us on Instagram at the Paranormal Lovers. Follow us on YouTube at the Paranormal Lovers as well.
Tell us if you thought he made a deal with the devil.
Yeah, you guys, that his music is on YouTube, so go find some of his music and give it a listen, and then come back and tell us what you think about it. Let's see, what else was there? You can send us an email at theparanormallovers@yahoo.com. We also have a website, which is theparanormallovers.com. So if you want to send us a message or a story or anything, go for that. We have a couple pieces of merch up on the website as well. If you go, it's like shop or store. I'm not sure which tab it is.
We got a really neat coffee cup.
Yeah, we do have a really cool coffee cup. But yeah, head on over there and check it out. I'm still working on how to get the website looking all nice and fancy. It's kind of plain right now, but
we're still looking for like video recording software too. So if you guys have any suggestions on how we should record our videos, shoot us an email.
Yeah, because we're using my laptop and his phone.
Yeah.
Connected over Zoom, which is fine. We don't want to pay a ton of extra money.
Yeah, we're looking for a free one, cheap as possible anyway.
Yeah, as cheap as possible so we can record up to an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Like last week we had that video, but it went over the time on Zoom, so we weren't actually able to use it.
Yeah.
So, but all right, guys, we appreciate you getting up with us, watching us, listening to us. I'm sorry, I'm so out of it today.
Thank you guys for listening.
I'm going to go hang out with my friend now, and we will see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.